you don't think any other cryptocurrency qualifies to be in a strategic reserve in the United States other than Bitcoin because of its decentralization and it has no issuer?
I think there's only one universally acknowledged digital commodity in the world.
Okay.
Right? There's only one.
I don't think any cryptocurrency would really qualify.
One. No, one does. Bitcoin qualifies.
But any other?
Michael Saylor, a leading voice in the crypto world, emphasizes that Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency that qualifies as a strategic reserve asset. Its decentralization and absence of a central issuer make it distinct and secure, giving it the status of a universally acknowledged digital commodity. Saylor highlights that Bitcoin's simplicity and clarity appeal to both seasoned investors and those new to the crypto space, reinforcing its role as a key pillar in the digital economy. Saylor further elaborates on the importance of categorizing digital assets into distinct classes, including short-term money for payments, tokens for capital creation, tokenized securities for innovation, and commodities like Bitcoin for preserving capital. He stresses the need for regulatory clarity and accountability in the crypto space, advocating for a balance between efficiency and investor protection. Recent developments, such as the establishment of a U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve, signal growing institutional confidence in Bitcoin's transformative potential. This strategic reserve, supported by an executive order, solidifies Bitcoin's position as a critical asset for economic stability and growth. With directives to acquire more Bitcoin and a commitment not to sell, the move reflects a long-term vision for financial security. Saylor believes this milestone will accelerate the global adoption of Bitcoin and reshape the financial landscape.
Appeals to the people that want immortal capital. And you can see if you lay out this taxonomy, there's 4 quadrants. You need them all. You need short-term money in order to make payments. You need tokens to create capital. You need to tokenize securities because otherwise, how do you innovate or create more efficiency in the world capital markets? And then you need a commodity to store and protect your capital. And once you see all 4 of them, you realize they should all be designated as new asset classes. The rule ought to be the issuers have an obligation to not lie, cheat, and steal. They're responsible for the damage they do. The exchanges should have the ability to trade these things at the speed of light with anybody or anything, any machine. And then they should have obligations. Don't lie, cheat, and steal. Don't assume a conflict of interest. And then the holders ought to have a right to self-custody. You ought to be able to own your assets, custody your assets, and transfer your assets freely. So I think that what we all agree with is there ought to be no AML, KYC frictions on asset transfer because that destroys the utility of all these digital assets. And to the extent that you want to enforce consumer protections or investor protections, you should put the obligations on the issuers, and that way the economy starts to grow very, very rapidly.
Michael Saylor, a prominent advocate for Bitcoin, argues that it is the only cryptocurrency deserving of a place in a U.S. strategic reserve. Its decentralized nature, absence of an issuer, and universal recognition as a digital commodity set it apart from other cryptocurrencies. Saylor highlights Bitcoin's unique role as a secure and enduring asset, capable of appealing to both veteran investors and newcomers in the digital economy. This foundational quality positions Bitcoin as the cornerstone for preserving capital in a rapidly evolving financial landscape. Recent developments, including an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the U.S., underline Bitcoin's growing institutional acceptance. The directive to acquire Bitcoin without selling emphasizes its long-term value. Saylor envisions this move as a catalyst for broader global adoption, with Bitcoin at the forefront of innovative financial strategies. By categorizing digital assets and ensuring robust regulation, the U.S. aims to lead the way in integrating cryptocurrencies into mainstream financial systems while fostering growth and innovation.
Well, that's been the debate for a decade, right? And it's been a massive debate and a massive source of confusion, which is, are there other digital commodities? And the position of the previous administration, Christine, was you're either a commodity, in which case you can trade on a crypto exchange legitimately, or you're a security, in which case it's illegal. We're going to sue you, shut you down, or jail you. You see? So we had a false dichotomy, and in that world where you're either going to die, the best case is economic death, and you're blocked from the banking system. By the way, everybody's blocked from the banking system. I think the last 2 weeks have been extraordinary for Bitcoin and for the strategic Bitcoin reserve, because momentum is really building. 2 weeks ago, there were three priorities, or there were three things talked about in the digital assets universe. A stablecoin act, right? The Genius bill, and a bill to create stablecoins and issue them in the U.S. And that really addresses the digital currency asset class. And then there's discussion of a market structure bill, and that's to create an entire digital assets framework, presumably to issue something akin to digital tokens or tokenized securities, digital securities. And then there is the strategic Bitcoin bill, or the Bitcoin Act. That was the third priority. And it was a question mark of where that was in D.C. There was support, but people were wondering. What happened in the past 2 weeks is the strategic Bitcoin reserve got elevated to a primary, if not the primary priority, with the executive order. So the president created it. And I think there are some very important things that happened. On Thursday night, about a week ago, the president issued the executive order creating the strategic Bitcoin reserve. And in the executive order designated just Bitcoin to go in the reserve, said we should never, ever sell it. Don't sell the Bitcoin. And then directed the Secretary of Commerce and Treasury to look for budget-neutral ways to acquire more Bitcoin.
Michael Saylor, a leading advocate for Bitcoin, emphasizes its unmatched qualities as a decentralized digital commodity, making it the only cryptocurrency suitable for a U.S. strategic reserve. He asserts that Bitcoin's unique characteristics, such as no central issuer and its potential to serve as immortal capital, position it as the ideal asset for preserving and protecting wealth. Recent regulatory developments, like the executive order to establish a U.S. Bitcoin reserve, highlight the increasing institutional trust in Bitcoin. This move, which prioritizes acquiring and holding Bitcoin without selling, underscores its strategic importance in a future-focused financial system. The broader crypto landscape continues to evolve, with discussions about stablecoins, digital securities, and market structures shaping the regulatory framework. Saylor's vision includes categorizing digital assets into clear classes while enforcing responsible practices for issuers and exchanges. These measures aim to balance innovation with investor protection, paving the way for a more efficient and transparent financial ecosystem. As Bitcoin takes center stage, it serves as a benchmark for how digital assets can integrate into traditional systems while retaining their transformative potential. Do you agree with Michael Saylor's assertion that Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency suited for a strategic reserve? How do you think regulatory frameworks will impact the future of cryptocurrencies? Feel free to share your insights in the comments below.